This is just one play from Jarran Reed's monster performance against the Carolina Panthers this week, showing why he's one of the best nose tackles in the NFL this year, and why he's also off to possibly the best start of any season of his entire career. Hey guys, Jarran Reed had another great game. Definitely his best game of the season. Registered 1.5 sacks, multiple hits, multiple hurries, and he plays in the run game. He and the entire Seahawks defensive line finally kind of had their breakout performance as a collective. Jarran, I think, has been fairly consistent throughout the whole season, but this was definitely a something of a breakout standout game for him. Full disclosure, I was very pessimistic about the Jarran Reed signing. I didn't like what I saw from him in Green Bay. He just seemed like a regressed player. If you asked Packer fans, most would have said and analysts, he was probably the worst player on probably also the worst defensive line in the NFL last year. But he's a man renewed. He's a man possessed right now. He's leading the team, might be the best player on the defense. It's not just him, though. I think that Clint Hurt has a lot to do with it, the way that they're scheming him. Also, they have a lot of history. No one's coached Jarran Reed more than Clint Hurt. So they definitely have background. So I think it's a combination of just being rejuvenated, getting his technique honed in. But then Clint Hurts also made some scheme tweaks against the run and pass that's allowing him to really flex what he has. He always had a pass rusher skill set. Um, and I think he's being maximized. I honestly think that, and we'll see once we really break down the tape, that he's having the best season of, at least starting off, the best season of his entire career, better than that 2018 year when he registered 10 sacks. I think his pressure rate at least will eclipse what he had then, which was a good, not great pressure rate in 2018. He might finish firmly inside the top 10 this year. So let's take a look at why this game was so good. So right off the bat here, I'm not going to spend too much time on scheme, but that does have a lot to do with it. Clint Hurt took a lot of care into trying to force man protection, so that guys are getting one-on-ones. One reason why we're not seeing guys like Draymond Jones pop is because they've been sliding. The offensive lines have been sliding to the three techniques. They're getting a 3-on-2 to that side. That's also why Jarran Reed has been doing well up to this point, because he's getting one-on-ones at the center. But they spent even more time to make sure more guys have one-on-ones. And if more guys have one-on-ones, then not only is it good for any given player, but it allows them to exploit matchups in weak spots. So there's just kind of this downstream systemic effect going on. So right off the bat, right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possible rushers. This forces Carolina to play man protection, include the running backs. They're playing what is probably Bob protection, big on big, back on backer. And they end up blitzing 6. So Jarran's rushing the outside of the left guard here. And like any good speed rush, he has good get off. But what's impressive right here is that he's able to bend this. Let's look at the other angle. He's able to bend this. This is something we haven't seen since 2018, really. He's able to bend it right at about 5-6 yards here. Last year against Green Bay, he'd get in these positions because he is skilled and he has good hands. He'd beat the guy right there, but he'd get ridden off to about the 10-yard mark. And if it's a deep drop and the quarterback is holding the ball, then it will register as a win by ESPN's model, or maybe a pressure or hurry, but he's not getting those quick hurries. So here he's able to clear hands and bend this back at the 6, 7, 8-yard mark. And that's how you get sacks. That's how you get hits and really affect the pass. So it's a really impressive move. Let's take a look at the handwork though a little bit better. Puts the inside hand right down the center, and then the outside hand, he's able to match it and forklift it up, and then he rips through and just bends it. So he's always had great hands, but the get off and the bend seems to be back. Here's another look. So on this one, he's the one technique. It's hard to get pressure as a one technique. But Clint Hurt uses an overload line and just lets everyone rush their gap. So even if they slide to him, instead of it being a 3-on-2, it's going to be a 3-on-3. So everyone has a one-on-one opportunity. In the event that it's a 4-man slide, they're showing pressure with Jordan Brooks, and they send him, so it keeps the left guard home. So if the left guard did slide, it would be one-on-one with the backer, but this looks like man protection to me, um, at least on the backside. So that allows Jarran Reed to get home. So what's impressive about this rush from Jarran is he's not aligned in a super wide stance. He's kind of splitting the gap evenly. It's not like he's rushing from a 2-eye, but with his body tilted toward the center. I mean, this isn't an impossible block for the center. He just beats him. Low pads, and he's just able to rip underneath. And again, he's bending through the contact. I'm not sure where this agility is coming from. I don't know if he's made technical changes, but right in this position, a lot of guys just get ridden off and their track can't bend back. But as you can see there, he does. He affects the pass, makes an errant throw, and they're able to set up the next down. Here's another situation where Clint Hurd is kind of gaming the front. It's another overload line. So again, he's getting one-on-ones for the entire line. It's 5-man protection. It's empty. There are 5 blockers, 5 guys showing pressure. So everyone just has to block to the guy to their outside. And he just beats his man again. This is a particularly impressive one because the center knows he needs to come out of his stance hotter. And I think Jarran knows that because he beat him earlier. So Jarran does a really good job of cranking his outside hip toward the center so that he knows he's going to have to corner on him, and pure speed may not win. Even though he's rushing a speed path, meaning the outside, he's pressing the outside, but he's getting his body torqued around rather, and then he's able to clear the outside half with his outside arm with a heavy like club move, then drops his inside pad and then rips underneath it. And the center can't do anything. I mean, this is unblockable one technique rush play right now. Can't do anything. So it's really impressive. He forces an errant pass. Jordan Brooks got lucky there. Jordan was hurt on that play. He ended up coming out after. So, and then Jarran ends up picking up the slack. So impressive stuff from Jarran there. Here he is at one technique again. Again, another overload line. They're ensuring they get one-on-ones. And this is Clint Hurd realizing they just can't block Carolina can't block Clint Hurd's guys one-on-one right now. So it's really impressive. So he's just sending out this front, and it looks like they're half sliding to him again. Or it might actually be man protection. But nonetheless, so he reads the center blocking to him, and now he changes it up and ends up crossing face with the counter move. So he's stressed speed like 2-3 times on this poor center now. And then he oversets to him to close the A gap off. And then he just clubs and arm overs and he's in there. And where Clint Hurd again is just throwing out what works, but with the mugged look from Devin Bush, this right guard, his eyes are on him. So he's not able to help. So the center is really on an island again. And then the right guard is too late. And Jarran explodes in the backfield too. A lot of guys, they'll beat the center, but they can't really get vertical to finish it off. That's where like they might register a win by PFF or ESPN's charting model, but not necessarily a hurry. But that was a case where he's just able to use his talent and get into the backfield. So here he finally gets doubled, and it looks like they half slide to him. And Jarran is just beating the double. He's just carrying it into the backfield, just fighting through and forcing the check down, allowing Seattle to defend the check down. That's part of their problem. Seattle will have good coverage at the second and third level, but they're not able to defend the check down because the pass rush can't get home. So by the time the ball is checked down, the second level's proximity to whether the running back or tight end or receiver, whoever is being checked down to, the proximity is simply greater than it would need to otherwise. So here they're able to rally quicker on a second and short and stop the play short of the sticks. Also, what's impressive here is that, so he's the one technique. He's being slid to on this play. That means the guys on the backside, in this case, it's Miles Adams, but Draymond Jones had a couple of good rushes from 3-tech here. That means the 3 technique finally has a two-way go. So Draymond ended up having to leave the game because he was hurt, but as they have a two-way go, that means both angles are open. So Miles is able to kind of snatch, push, pull him and get clean. Now the ball comes out, so you don't give Miles a hurry here, but you do give him a win. And that's going to allow Miles and Draymond and Mario Edwards, as we especially see in this game, Edwards really pop. So this is the gravity of Jarran Reed right now. He's dictating the protection calls from one technique, and that's most guys aren't doing that. So here's the play that I opened with. This is another overload line. The center just has zero chance. This is probably him timing the snap up because his get off is just insane. But that's a smart player who understands silent counts. And again, the most impressive thing from Jarran with all of this, as much as the technique is impressive and everything, is that when he's got the guy on him, it's the ability to sustain his path and continue to bend. So like his agility through contact, his bend through contact, and the ability to sustain his intended path is what is impressing me the most right now. 2018, he had that. Then in 2019, he had all the same technique. He had all the same smarts because he's a very smart player, but just the agility and the speed seemed to be gone. So right now it's back, and I'm not really sure where it came from. He was not this fast in Green Bay nor Kansas City or even his last year with the Seahawks in 2020 when he was still a decent player that year. He just wasn't the pass rusher he is right now. So as a pass rusher, I mean, the fact that he's giving them this sort of production from one technique is huge because it means the offensive lines have to start thinking about how they situate their protection calls, which will have a downstream effect for giving their other defensive tackle more one-on-ones, as well as from that, Clint Hurt can also send more stunts off of that so that they can get numbers on the weak side better. And so there's just this huge domino effect. It opens up so much. So basically, they're getting from Jarran what we hoped to get from Jalen Carter. Well, honestly, what we hoped to get from Draymond. Draymond can still be a good player for them, but it's just a huge boon to what they're trying to do. So on the run defense, yeah, he still did all the grunt work in run defense. The Seahawks are giving up under 3 yards a carry, and this is a huge reason why. I think, hold up, before we even look at the play, yeah, they're defending this from too high again. So the huge premise here, sorry with the excited mouse work, the whole underlying premise is that they can defend the run from a 4-man front in nickel out of too high, which the safety is actually creeping into the box. It's probably cover 3. But if they're able to defend the run from this look routinely, that means they get to stay in this front, which is a pass rush oriented front when it is a pass. So if they continue to defend the run on early downs out of this look, that means they can continue to rush the passer. And we saw like that loop finally close where the pass rush was finally heating up, because that's the whole point of playing this. They could play bear. They could play 3-4, even 3-3, the nickel version of 3-4, stuff the run all day long in that if they want to. But you're not going to get any pass rush. And if you're not going to get any pass rush, you're not going to be able to defend all 3 levels of the field. One of those 3 levels is going to pop eventually. So pass rush allows you to become a 3-dimensional pass defense. And it's their run defense in this front that is allowing them to access their pass rush on early downs when the run or pass can happen. So Mario Edwards gets crazy knockback. Jarran Reed just beats his guy. He's power stepping, one gapping into the guard. He pads back into the guard, and then he just wraps over the top and plays down the line of scrimmage and makes the tackle. So he's just flying out of his block. I mean, he's just out. The Panthers offensive line is just outmatched right now. On this next one, so he gets some knockback, but he does it under control too. And so like Edwards was really explosive into the backfield on that last play, but he kind of loses his level a little bit. Jarran's able to maintain his gap control with it as well and make the play. So he's resetting the line of scrimmage and maintaining his horizontal leverage. What's impressive about this is that so he's power stepping. He's one gapping. Power step means he's in a split leg stance. No matter what direction the zone flow is, the initial step of the center, his back foot has to come forward. So if you think about it, if it's zone zone left from the running back's perspective, or from our angle here, zone right from Reed's perspective. He's stepping with his left foot. That means Jarran's his back foot is going to have to essentially catch up to the center's work. So you see here, he actually starts to lose his initial horizontal leverage because that back foot is at a disadvantage trying to go with the zone flow. Had it been to the other direction, Jarran would be able to kind of cheat it, but he's not able to. But he gets so much surge and knockback, and then he's able to work back into his leverage here with some pretty impressive rotational strengths to make sure that he stays in that the front side of that A gap, because that's ultimately his primary responsibility. And he's supposed to have his inside half on the center's outside half, so he's able to work back to it. So that is dominant. That is dominant nose tackle play. And then lastly, on this last one, this is where a play doesn't even go as it's intended to. He actually gets knocked out of his A gap, but he's able to understand what's happening with the ball, and he doesn't try to work back into it. He actually ends up playing the A gap by just taking all the air out of it by controlling the guard. Let's get a better look here. So you see he's trying to stay in that A gap. He actually gets knocked out of it, but he's able to anchor so well in this guard. He chokes the air out of it. He also knows he has a pirate stunt on the backside, meaning Draymond Jones is working into that next gap. So he understands what's going on in the backside of the play, and then he holds his ground and is able to shed, make the tackle himself for pretty much a no-yard gain. So it goes without saying, Jarran Reed's been dominant against the run all year long. While he did have a great game rushing the passer, he's not going to have a game like this every single week, but he's doing it in a way that is sustainable. He's still going to have he might have a game where he has a sack or two, but he's also going to have games where he's going to, have maybe a couple of hurries, a couple of quarterback hits. He's going to have his floor games. If this was his ceiling game, his floor games are still going to be really high because he's doing it in a way where he's winning with outside moves, he's winning with power, he's winning with inside moves, he's gaming the protection. That's all stuff that projects well moving forward. It's not just unsustainable splash plays. So this is the most welcome addition we could have fathomed, I think, the way it's gone, considering preseason expectations. So it's really good stuff. So we're going to have more breakdowns coming out this week. We'll talk more about the protection game plan from Clint Hurt, why everyone was able to be maximized and optimized when we do Maddie and I, when we do our tape breakdown later in the week. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, go Hawks.